For most of human history, life moved slowly. Then, machines changed how people worked and how power worked. Industry didn't just build factories, it built empires, nations, and the modern world. This is the moment when everything began to accelerate.
Imagine standing in Britain around 1800. Coal dust hangs in the air. Steam hisses from strange new machines. The ground vibrates with the turning of giant iron wheels. A transformation is beginning, one that will reshape not only Europe, but the entire world.
Mr. Higgins, the growth of this factory is astonishing. How did Britain leap from workshops to industrialized cities?
It comes down to a few key ingredients, miss. Think of it like a recipe. First, we needed resources.
Like coal and iron?
Precisely. The coal to fuel the engines, the iron to build them. Britain had both in abundance, right under our feet. But across Europe, France, Belgium, later Germany, wherever coal and iron existed, factories followed. And every nation trying to catch up must follow this engine. But resources alone are just rock and dirt. You need capital.
Money to invest from trade and banking?
Exactly. Wealth from centuries of global trade, silver from the Americas, textiles from India, poured into banks right here. Capital turned inventions into industries. Mills, steelworks, railroads, shipping companies.
And the third ingredient?
Entrepreneurship, the risk taker, the fellow who perfects the steam engine, or the businessman, like myself, who gathers the capital, buys the resources, and figures out how to profit from it all. Without that spirit, Miss Alexa, this entire machine grinds to a halt.
So abundant resources, flowing capital, and daring entrepreneurship built this industrial economy.
They did. But there's a new problem, miss. Our factories now have an insatiable global appetite. We need more than just coal and iron. Now, if you'll excuse me, I must secure a new shipment of cotton from our suppliers in India and the American South. Soon, even Africa will become part of this supply chain.
Europe's new factories needed something they did not have enough of: raw materials, markets, labor, land. Industrialization demanded expansion. Factories hungered for more than steam and steel. They hungered for resources from across the world. Cotton for the ever-growing textile mills, rubber for belts, gaskets, and the machinery that powered production. Copper and tin for the electrical wiring of a modern age. Palm oil to keep the engines turning, smooth and fast. And tea, coffee, and spices to satisfy Europe's exploding consumer markets.
The appetite of industry was endless, and it pushed empires farther and farther across the globe. To industrial nations, Britain, France, Germany, Belgium, and Italy, Africa and Asia appeared to Europe like vast warehouses waiting to be claimed.
Railroads, telegraphs, and steamships made conquest easier than ever. Imperialism became a way to feed the industrial machine and a way to display national power.
Berlin, 1884, a grand chandeliered hall. Flags of Europe hang above a massive map of Africa laid out across an oak table. Delegates murmur as Otto von Bismarck steps forward, calm, deliberate, hosting the great diplomatic performance of the age. Beside the Congo Basin stands King Leopold II, tall, bearded, calculating. Leopold makes his claim.
The Congo Basin is a vast, unclaimed wilderness, a region Belgium is ready to develop, civilize, and open to international commerce.
A few delegates shift in their chairs. British Representative Sir Edward Malley lifts an eyebrow.
Commerce, or the rubber your industries cannot survive without.
Leopold's thin smile widens.
Rubber is valuable, yes, but the local populations lack structure. They will require firm guidance and a disciplined hand to make the land productive.
Everyone in the room understands what firm guidance means. The map is drawn. Bismarck picks up a straight edge and draws a long, hard line across Central Africa.
It is settled. This region shall be recognized as the International Association of the Congo, administered by His Majesty King Leopold II.
A short, awkward silence follows.
One day I shall rename this territory the Congo Free State.
Then, two Belgian aides quietly chuckle at the word free. One looks down, one bites his lip to hide a grin. Leopold stares straight ahead, pretending not to notice. Millet hears the chuckle. He fixes the Belgians with a cold look.
Free. The Congo Free State. Indeed, that will be quite the headline.
The aides instantly stop smiling.
Nothing about this arrangement is free, or least of all the people who live there.
Leopold's jaw tightens, but he says nothing.
France moves from the west. Portugal clings to the coasts. Germany advances in the east. We are tripping over one another for territory.
Which is precisely why we gather here, to avoid European war through clarity and order.
The principle that changes everything. Bismarck addresses the room with statesmanlike authority.
Effective occupation. No claim shall be recognized unless the occupying power controls the territory with soldiers, treaties, and administration.
No African voices here, this is true, but neither will Africa remain untouched. The question is whether this continent is ruled by chaos or connected by rail from Cape to Cairo.
Leopold rolls up the designated Congo section with a crisp, satisfied snap.
History will thank us for bringing order, even if it cannot yet appreciate the sacrifices required.
A faint military drumbeat echoes from somewhere deep in the building, a dark omen of what the Congo will endure.
Gentlemen, Africa awaits division.
The delegates sit, pens scratch, borders shift, a continent is carved before afternoon tea. But as Europe stretched outward, one major nation remained absent from the race. The scramble for Africa unfolded in the decades after the American Civil War, while the United States turned inward, rebuilding a fractured nation through reconstruction, westward expansion, and industrial growth. So when European powers prepared to divide Africa, the United States did not arrive as a competitor, only as an observer. It had no African colonies, no territorial ambitions there, no army positioned for overseas conquest. But the United States did insist on one thing: Liberia must remain untouched. Founded in the early 1800s by formerly enslaved people returning from the United States, Liberia was more than a country. It was symbolic. A republic built by people reclaiming their freedom. A parallel story to America's own struggle after the Civil War. So when the European empires drew lines across Africa, dividing kingdoms and redrawing borders, Liberia and Ethiopia stood apart. Among the very few African nations to remain independent, a small exception in a massive imperial system, but one with lasting significance. The Berlin Conference did not industrialize Africa, it organized access. Access to resources, access to labor, access to markets. The borders drawn in Berlin followed what industry demanded: minerals, trade routes, raw materials. For Europe, the results were clear. Resources fed factories. Capital expanded railroads, machines, and shipping. Entrepreneurship linked production to global markets. Industrial economies did not stop at national borders. They expanded outward in search of more fuel. Together, resources, capital, and entrepreneurship powered Europe's industrial rise and pushed that power across the world. For most of human history, life moved slowly. Work was done by hand, and families lived where they were born. The rhythm of life followed the sun, the seasons, and tradition. Then, in the late 1700s, the world began to accelerate. In Britain, machines powered by steam replaced human muscle. Iron frames and spinning wheels filled newly built factories. Cloth that once took weeks to make could now be produced in hours. Coal burned day and night, feeding engines that never tired. People followed the machines. Rural villages emptied as families crowded into growing cities. Streets filled with smoke. Tenements rose quickly and cheaply. Workdays stretched from dawn to darkness. Men, women, and children labored beside clattering machines, trading fresh air for wages. Wealth accumulated, but unevenly. Factory owners prospered. Merchants expanded their reach. Meanwhile, workers endured dangerous conditions, low pay, and little protection. Cities grew faster than sanitation systems could keep up, and rivers darkened with industrial waste. At some point, a question becomes unavoidable.
If industry was advancing so quickly, Did life actually get better for the people inside those factories?
That's the right question to ask.
Better? That depends on who you ask, lad.
From the perspective of the working class, dismissed by elites as the great unwashed, the first industrial revolution was not comfort or opportunity. It was survival.
We were pushed into cities that weren't ready for us. No sewers, no clean water, just soot and cramped tenements. 14-hour days in textile mills just to afford a crust of bread.
Yet the transformation could not be stopped. Steam power spread beyond textiles into transportation. Railroads stitched regions together. Goods moved faster than ever before, and markets expanded. The first industrial revolution permanently altered how people worked, lived, and traveled, even as it strained those caught inside it. Just as societies began to adjust, a second wave of change arrived. By the late 1800s, industry was no longer driven by steam alone. Electricity lit streets and factories, oil-powered engines, steel replaced iron, stronger, lighter, and more flexible than anything before. Production became faster, larger, and more precise. Inventions reshaped daily life. Light bulbs pushed back the darkness. Telephones collapsed distance. Assembly lines turned manufacturing into a continuous flow, producing goods for millions rather than thousands. Factories grew larger, machines grew more complex. Operating steel lathes, electrical grids, and chemical plants required skill, and skill brought leverage. Workers noticed.
One major effect of the Second Industrial Revolution was the rise of organized labor.
We formed unions. We demanded safer conditions, shorter hours, the 8-hour workday. In the first, we were replaceable parts of a machine. In the second, we became something else.
Consumers. Cities slowly began to change. Advances in chemistry and biology led to public health reforms. Underground sewers, clean water systems, vaccinations, education expanded. Middle-class neighborhoods grew. Inequality remained, but standards of living improved for many. The Second Industrial Revolution did not erase the damage of the first, but it proved something critical. Progress could be shaped, not just endured. By the early 1900s, the world was unrecognizable compared to a century earlier. The effects of the First and Second Industrial Revolutions reshaped economies, societies, governments, and the global balance of power. And now, the world is changing again. Artificial intelligence, automation, and robotics are beginning to replace routine thinking, just as steam replaced muscle and electricity multiplied productivity. This moment feels new, but the pattern is familiar.
Just remember, lad, every rise in standard of living was paid for in sweat, and won by voices that refused to stay quiet.
So, what happens to people this time?
History gives us a clear answer. Work does not disappear, it changes. Old jobs vanish, new ones emerge. Productivity rises faster than protections. Inequality widens before reforms catch up, unless societies act sooner. That is the lesson the industrial revolutions leave us. So the question is no longer, can we trust what we see? The question is, how do we know? This is why history matters, not to memorize facts, but to verify them. Artificial intelligence can expand access to education, translate languages instantly, reveal patterns humans might miss, and even reduce dangerous labor, and give people more time for creativity, care, and learning. The danger is not artificial intelligence itself, but unprepared societies using it. If AI is shaping the next great revolution, then education must adapt with that technology, and human judgment must remain central. So when you see that catchy headline or a meme designed to trigger an emotional response, pause and remember to apply OPCVL to whatever message being presented. Who created it? What was their purpose? What is the full context? What is the value of this information, and what are its limitations, its bias, or what's being left out? That pause is the difference between thinking critically and letting the screen decide what you believe.